welcome back to Colin's Arran garden. It's been a long time since I saw you all. Well, here we are, a very important part of the year. Now is the time when you really need to start planting lots of seeds. And when I first came to gardening, I thought, well, you plant the seeds in the beds outside. No, you don't. What you do is you have an area somewhere that's warm, where you put lots of seeds in little module things, and then what you're basically trying to do is having almost an armamentarium, somewhere where there's an arsenal, lots and lots of little plants growing up, and it can be in quite a small place. And that means that in your garden, when a plant dies, or if you take a plant to eat it, you take this plant out of the module and you put it in the space, so that, you know, it doesn't matter if you end up creating a lot more plants than you need from seeds, because seed plants from seed are cheap. You should see what they charge for 6 plug plants of cauliflower, say, from Sutton's. I mean, you're talking about £8. And stop for a minute. An onion set, you know, the little onions you get, they can be about 10 pence each, right? Whereas onion seeds, you can get hundreds of them for very little. So, as you're a gardener, you want to try and spend as little money as possible, you know, and save most of your money for the important things in life, like beer, or whatever. Anyway, so here we are, and we're going to plant our seeds. Now, there's been a big change in the way we approach this, thanks to a guy called Charles Dowding, and it's very well worth looking at his site, because he is the gardener's gardener. He doesn't have the sex appeal of the Monty Don or the Colin Guthrie, but he really is at the cutting edge. And what he's introduced is something relatively new, I think, or brought something back from the past, and that's something called multi-sowing. And multi-sowing is where you put quite a number of seeds, maybe 4, 5, 6 seeds in one little module. But he's gone further than that. He's actually created a special seed tray, and Scott will put a note of this at the bottom. It's called the CD60, and it comes made by a company called Containerwise. And all the professional gardeners now are touting this company. And do you know what? Getting 10 CD60s from Containerwise, you know, it's easier to get tickets from Glastonbury at the moment, because they're sold out all the time. However, they come up from time to time, and they're well worth buying. Unfortunately, they're a bit expensive. They're about £4 each. But I look at it and think, well, that's cheaper than a pint of beer, you know. So I'll show you one of these CD60s. Here we are. This is a CD60, and it's solid. It's got a little hole in the bottom. You plant you put your soil in like that, right? And then you put lots of water on it, and before you know what's happened, you have one of these. And this is all packed with lovely soil with water in it, and it's waiting for the seeds. And guess what? It's all changed now. What you do is you put in, come over here, you put in, for instance, the thing that's really hit me is leeks. You know, 5 leeks in a plug. No, you don't have to take individual leeks and use a dibber and put water in nowadays. What you do is you just do that. And look at that, you've got 5 leeks. Isn't that beautiful? 5 leeks, plops in a hole, and guess what? You don't need to put them too deep. And Charles Dowding's right. When those leeks grow, those green parts of the leek aren't that different from the white part. So that's 60 cells, 5 in each. That's 300 leeks. And basically, when you, in a couple of months' time, you take 1 leek off, the other 4 get bigger, and you can keep going. So you've got loads of leeks there. And you can do that for a range of plants. Scott will put a list at the bottom, but the ones I like, there's cabbage. This is something called Kohl Rabi, blue Kohl Rabi, which is a plant that has a protrusion in the stem. It's very flavourful. You can't do this multi-sowing with plants that have the roots in the soil, like carrots and parsnips. However, I have been able to transplant parsnips from this, pushing them out and putting them in the soil, which is quite which works really well. And here we've got, what have we got over here? This is the Petrowski turnip. Beetroot. There would be more beetroot here if the mice hadn't eaten the seeds, but beetroot love this, so you can put 4 or 5 in at a time. Now, when you've planted your seeds in, if you manage to get one of these, the thing is that the things we used to do were these, and they fall apart and they're horrible and wobbly. And then I went through a phase of using the soil blockers. It's a lot of work and it's difficult to get the soil at the right. So that's history, like Mr. Toad. I have moved on. And there are those of you out there who spend your lives cutting up toilet rolls. That's fine. It works well. But when you're trying to grow 60, 180 plants in a thing, come on, you know, get real, right? So toilet rolls are the history as well. While we're at it, something slightly tangential. Look at this wonderful cloche. I've got them in over there, over squash plants. And all this is the inside of a fridge or a fridge freezer that someone's abandoned. And look at that, isn't that fantastic? It can put your plants in there, you can use it as a cloche. Very good idea. The other thing I like are these plastic bottles. I've brought on climbing French beans at the back there and various other plants. So once you've planted your seeds in this, right, the actual potting compost is not all that important. Some people get really too technical about it. The seeds have their own energy in them. They just want to get started. You don't want anything that's too compacting. It doesn't have to be that expensive. Charles Dowding himself recommends B&Q normal seeding potting compost. And once you've got your seeds in this, what your seeds need is heat. Heat. Now, you can stack these one above the other. So what you do is you do all your CD60s, you put them one above the other, and you go into the house and you put them near a radiator, not too near, but near a radiator. And after a few days, you'll start to get seeds producing, coming up, and then you separate them, of course, because they can't grow. At that stage, those little plants need light. If you don't give them enough light, they'll get too leggy and they won't go anywhere. So at that stage, you have to take them somewhere where there's light, like a windowsill. Try and keep them a little bit warm, but on a windowsill. And then it's important to keep a close eye on the amount of water that the plants need. It's quite surprising actually how much water they need at certain stages, of course depending on the plant. And then when that's all done, there you are, you've got all these lovely plants and you can just take them out and plant them where their space is. And then when you're doing that, get more plug trays filled up and just keep a reserve of those plants in case we get a late cold snap and everything dies, you know. So what I'll do now is just take a quick look around here, see if you're interested. I've got lots of onions and garlics that I've grown over the winter, and down here these are onions I've grown from seed, and you'll see that there's quite a few in each little block. But what you do is when they start to get bigger, you can use them as spring onions, and the ones that are left behind become bigger onions. Down here, I think this is garlic, and here's my squash plant, the blue banana squash plant. It's not doing too well, but I'm hopeful that it'll go well. And then down this way, I've got carrots. That's a Elizabeth Schwartz squash. Carrots, broad beans, which I've individually staked, which is a bit obsessive compulsive, but that's my major determinant. Kale's coming on well. Over here I've got the Petrowski turnip. Got some radishes coming through now. They're nice. And you can multi-sow radishes. And over here is quite interesting, that's the Mange 2s. And at the back here is something that Charles Dowding is very keen on, and that's sprouts from peas. You grow peas close together, and after a couple of weeks you take the shoots off and you eat them, and it's an exquisite pea taste. Lovely. And the important point with this pea is the more you pull these plants sprouts off, the more that grow. So in a month's time that'll be a jungle of sprouts, and they're very nice raw in salads or lightly steamed. Over here I've got the Cobra climbing French beans, bit early in the year, but thanks to these containers that I've cut off, coming on all right. Potatoes and various herbs, but this is the thing that I'm most proud of. I've got the asparagus coming through now, and in a week's time I will be eating asparagus every day for 4 months. So there you are. So, well, I hope that's been of some use. Hope I haven't forgotten too much. Happy gardening. Bye.